Alina Vargas had always believed that a home was more than bricks and mortar. It was the sum of every laugh, every tear, every quiet morning spent nursing a cup of coffee on the porch. She and her husband, Tomas, had built their little slice of paradise with their own hands. Back when the world was young and their dreams were boundless. It was 1985, and the plot of land on the outskirts of Willow Creek, a sleepy town nestled in the rolling hills of upstate New York, was little more than a weed-choked field. But to them, it was a canvas. Tomas was the visionary, sketching blueprints on napkins during their lunch breaks at the mill where he worked as a carpenter. Alina, with her steady hands and unyielding spirit, was the builder. She mixed the concrete, laid the foundation stones, and hammered nails until her palms blistered. "This house will outlive us," Tomas would say, wiping sweat from his brow, his dark eyes sparkling under the brim of his worn cap. "It'll hold our stories, mi amor, like a frame around a photograph." They poured everything into it. The wide front windows that caught the sunrise like captured fire. The wraparound porch where they'd swing in hammocks during lazy summers. The kitchen, with its heart pine cabinets that Alina carved herself. Upstairs, a nursery they never filled, but which they painted butter yellow anyway, dreaming of the children who might one day run through the halls. Tomas hung a simple wooden frame in the living room. A photo of them on their wedding day, her in white lace, him in a borrowed suit, both grinning like fools under a sky full of stars. Behind the glass, tucked into the backing, Alina slipped the original deed to the property. It was their secret, a talisman against the uncertainties of life. "In case the world tries to take it from us," she'd whispered, sealing it with a kiss to the paper. Life, as it often does, had other plans. Tomas passed in 1999, a heart attack at 52. Felled by the same mill that had given them their start. Alina buried him under the old oak in the backyard, the one they'd planted the day they broke ground. She kept the house alive, tending the vegetable garden, mending the roof when storms tore at the shingles. At 68, she was a fixture in Willow Creek, the widow who baked apple pies for the church bake sale and volunteered at the library, reading stories to wide-eyed children. Her son Marco had moved to the city years ago, chasing corporate ladders and leaving behind a trail of broke ramas. He called sporadically, always with an excuse, but Alina forgave him. Family was family, after all. It started with a cough, a persistent, rattling thing that Alina dismissed as autumn chill. But by October 2024, it had deepened into pneumonia, complicated by the arthritis that twisted her fingers like gnarled roots. The ambulance came on a Tuesday night, sirens slicing through the quiet like a knife. Just a few days in the hospital, It didn't turn. A new lock, gleaming brass. She knocked, the sound hollow against the oak she'd planed smooth herself. Footsteps, then the door cracked open. A woman in yoga pants peered out, pixel yipping at her heels. Leela, mid-30s, with a nose ring and a ponytail that screamed influencer. "Can I help you?" "This is my home," Alina said, voice cracking like dry leaves. The words felt absurd, but they were true. Leela's brow furrowed. "Ma'am, we bought this place fair and square. From her son Marco Vargas. Look, if you're selling Girl Scout cookies or whatever, we're good." Alina pushed past, cane thumping, into the foyer. The air smelled of sage and paint thinner, not the faint lavender of her set. The living room, oh God, the living room. The walls were stripped to studs. Exposed brick, mocking her wallpaper of faded roses. The kitchen cabinets, gone, replaced by sleek white quartz. And the photo frame, it was still there, propped on a sawhorse, amid dropcloths. As if forgotten in the chaos. "Get out!" Leela shrieked, dialing her phone. Jocks appeared, burly and bewildered, blocking Elena's path. "Lady, you're trespassing. We're calling the cops." But Alina didn't hear them. She lunged for the frame, fingers clawing at the backing. It tore free with a rip, yellowed paper fluttering to the floor like a fallen leaf. The deed, original, stamped 1985, Tomas's signature bold beside hers. No liens, no transfers, untouched, unbreakable. "You forgot," she whispered, clutching it to her chest. "I built this house. I never left it empty." The police arrived 10 minutes later. 2 officers from Willow Creek PD who knew Alina from church potluck. Officer Ramirez, a stocky man with a mustache like Tomas's, took one look at the deed and whistled low. "Alina, what the hell's going on?" She explained, words tumbling out in a rush. "The hospital. Marco's betrayal, the strangers in her bed." Leela and Jocks hovered, indignant, waving printouts from the county clerk. "We have the title. Paid in full." Ramirez scanned the deed, then the papers. "This original trumps that quick sale BS. Looks like fraud, folks. Mamelin, you're staying. These 2. Out by morning." The night was a blur. Alina sat on the porch steps, wrapped in a blanket Jocks grudgingly provided, watching fireflies dance over the garden she'd lost and found. Ramirez called the station, then a lawyer friend pro bono, because Willow Creek took care of its own. By dawn, Leela and Jocks were packing, grumbling about small-town corruption as they loaded Pixel into their Subaru. "We'll sue," Leela spat, but her eyes darted away from Elena's unyielding gaze. Marco showed up at noon, speeding up the drive in his rented Prius, face ashen. "Ma, I can explain." Alina watched them from the swing, the creak of chains a lullaby. She'd never left the house empty, not really. It was filled with ghosts and graces, the echo of hammers on nails, the scent of fresh-baked bread. Betrayal had cracked the foundation, but love, the fierce, unyielding kind, had mended it stronger. Years later, when Elena's hands finally stilled, the house passed not to Marco, but to Sophia. "Keep the frame," Alina whispered on her last breath, eyes on the stars beyond the window. "And remember, we build what endures." The girl nodded, tucking the secret close. The house stood sentinel, windows glowing like captured fire, holding stories in its frame forever. Alina watched them from the swing, the creak of chains a lullaby. She'd never left the house empty, not really. It was filled with ghosts and graces, the echo of hammers on nails, the scent of fresh-baked bread. Betrayal had cracked the foundation, but love, the fierce, unyielding kind, had mended it stronger. Years later, when Elena's hands finally stilled, the house passed not to Marco, but to Sophia. "Keep the frame," Alina whispered on her last breath, eyes on the stars beyond the window. "And remember, we build what endures." The girl nodded, tucking the secret close. The house stood sentinel, windows glowing like captured fire, holding stories in its frame forever.